Reluctantly, he activated the recording, and Michael watched intently, his piercing eyes dissecting every frame. Erica sat silently, waiting for the truth to come to light. As the video played, the fabric of Reed's accusations began to unravel. There was no evidence of erratic driving. Erica's movements were steady and composed. What struck Michael most, however, was the insidious shift in Reed's behavior once he realized Erica was black. His tone turned hostile, his body language aggressive. The escalation wasn't rooted in protocol, but in prejudice, an egregious abuse of power masquerading as procedure. The footage laid bare the ugly truth: racial profiling. Despite Erica's calm cooperation, the treatment she received had been fueled by bias, disregarding all professional standards. Michael's jaw tightened as the weight of the betrayal sank in. How could someone wearing the same badge act with such callous disregard for justice? Turning to Reed, who was now sweating, his earlier bravado crumbling, Michael delivered his verdict with quiet finality. "This ends now," he said, addressing Erica before turning to Reed. "You're done here. Step away." Reed froze, unable to process the severity of the moment. Michael's directive was unequivocal. No more deception, no more manipulation. The truth had surfaced, and Reed's fate was sealed. Without giving Reed another chance to speak, Michael spoke with resolute determination. "I'll be filing an official report. You'll answer for this." The atmosphere around them shifted entirely. Tension dissolved into clarity. Confrontation gave way to consequence. The web of lies had been unraveled, revealing the misconduct that had caused such distress, and bringing a profound sense of relief. As the immediate confrontation began to subside, the full weight of what had transpired settled heavily on Michael. Beneath his calm exterior, anger simmered like a dormant volcano on the verge of eruption. How could a fellow officer, someone he thought he knew, commit such an egregious breach? Turning to Erica, he offered her a reassuring smile, though the toll of the ordeal lingered in his eyes. With swift determination, Michael filed an official complaint against Reed, ensuring every detail of the incident was meticulously documented. This wasn't just paperwork. It was the first step toward accountability. It didn't take long for internal investigations to kick into gear. This wasn't just another case. It was personal. Michael understood that justice demanded perseverance and that actions must have consequences. For Reed, there would be no escaping responsibility. The accusation against one of their own shook the department, and Michael made it clear that Reed's actions would not be swept under the rug. The department had no choice but to respond. Erica, still shaken yet resolute, stood firmly by her husband's side. She witnessed how Michael's rank and influence ensured swift scrutiny of Reed's conduct. But Erica knew this wasn't just about her. It was about all those who had been racially profiled, mistreated, or unjustly arrested by officers like Reed. Her husband's badge shielded her from further harm, but for countless others, such protection didn't exist. As the investigation into Officer Reed unfolded, a troubling pattern emerged. His record was riddled with questionable behavior, particularly toward black drivers. Inconsistencies in his reports painted a damning picture. Unwarranted stops, unjustified escalations, and fabricated evidence were glaringly evident. Reed had built a reputation as an officer operating outside the law, taking matters into his own hands without regard for ethics or accountability. Michael worked tirelessly, sparing no effort to ensure the department upheld its commitment to justice. The mounting evidence against Reed could no longer be ignored. His days of unchecked power were numbered. For Michael, this wasn't merely about holding a bad officer accountable. It was about exposing a culture of complacency within the system. It was about tackling deeply entrenched issues that allowed individuals like Reed to act with impunity. What began as a personal confrontation quickly spiraled into something far more profound. A chain reaction forcing the department to confront its failures. Internal Affairs launched a sweeping investigation into Reed's past cases, dissecting every arrest he'd ever made. The weight of the evidence was overwhelming, and the department could no longer protect him. He had crossed a line that neither rank nor connections could erase. For Erica, a quiet sense of pride began to take root. Together, she and Michael were fighting for something much bigger than themselves: their battle became a catalyst for change, sparking critical conversations about racial profiling and police accountability. What started as a single incident transformed into a movement, and Erica found herself thrust into the spotlight. Though she had once preferred anonymity, she embraced her new role with unwavering determination. Erica understood the road ahead would be fraught with challenges, but she was ready to fight, not just for herself, but for the countless victims of systemic injustice. Michael stood steadfastly by her side, offering support that went beyond legal strategy. He recognized the magnitude of what they were undertaking. Erica, once an anonymous face in a crowded world, had become a symbol of resistance. Using her platform, she began boldly denouncing the racism she had endured. Her social media presence exploded as she shared her story, recounting moments that shattered her faith in a system she had once trusted. With each post, her voice grew stronger. This was no longer just about a traffic stop. It was about calling out a pervasive pattern of abuse that had gone unchecked for too long. By encouraging others to share their experiences, she created a safe space for voices often silenced. Stories poured in, from women, men, people of color, all recounting similar injustices at the hands of those sworn to protect them. The response was swift, as was the outpouring of support. People from all walks of life rallied behind Erica's cause, amplifying calls for racial justice. Hashtags like #Stop Racial Profiling gained traction nationwide, while advocacy groups worked tirelessly to collaborate on initiatives that brought these crucial conversations to the forefront. The media delved deeply into her case, and soon Erica found herself participating in panels, engaging in discussions about police reform, and appearing in interviews to share her journey toward justice. But it wasn't just the media paying attention. Communities mobilized, inspired by Erica's courage. What began as a personal struggle transformed into a national awakening, demanding accountability, transparency, and meaningful change. And Erica, armed with resilience and determination, stood at the helm of this movement. Lawmakers, local leaders, and even fellow law enforcement officers began to take notice. They weren't merely listening, they were absorbing Erica's words. Her message resonated profoundly, striking a chord that echoed far beyond her individual experience. Though her story was not unique, it carried the weight of frustration, pain, and anger shared by countless others who had suffered the consequences of racial profiling, faced discriminatory practices in their daily lives, and been denied justice by systems meant to protect them. Erica wasn't fighting solely for change in her own case. She envisioned a future where no one else would endure what she had. Alongside Michael, she relentlessly pushed for legislation aimed at dismantling systemic issues that allowed officers like Reed to perpetuate misconduct. Their advocacy called for stricter accountability measures, improved police training programs, and most importantly, a national initiative to adopt de-escalation tactics. As pressure mounted, Erica's unyielding efforts began shifting the national dialogue. What started as a local issue quickly revealed itself as a national crisis demanding urgent attention. Erica emerged not only as an advocate for racial justice, but also as a leader in a burgeoning movement, unwavering in her commitment to achieving substantive reforms. Months passed, yet the weight of the investigation bore heavily on everyone involved. However, Officer Reed's fate was already sealed. The charges against him, racial discrimination, professional misconduct, and violations of Erica's civil rights, were damning enough to dismantle his career. Initially placed on administrative leave, he was soon permanently dismissed. The shield of privilege and authority once granted by his badge collapsed around him, exposing years of hidden wrongdoing to public scrutiny. Outrage erupted, underscoring the significance of Erica's revelations. This wasn't just about holding Reed accountable. It was about setting a powerful precedent. Law enforcement officers engaging in racial profiling would face consequences. The public demanded accountability, and slowly, the system began to respond. Erica's victory transcended Reed's punishment and marked a pivotal shift within the law enforcement community. Her ordeal became the catalyst for broader change, prompting policymakers to reevaluate their approach to police misconduct and confront the deeply entrenched issues fueling racial profiling. Discussions about reform reached unprecedented momentum, challenging the notion that officers could abuse their power without repercussions. Michael, leveraging his role as an officer, played a critical part in advancing these changes. He understood that while this particular battle had been won, the larger war was just beginning. Alongside Erica, he collaborated with local advocacy groups to develop innovative training programs, addressing implicit bias, promoting de-escalation techniques, and fostering trust between law enforcement and the communities they served. Together, Erica and Michael worked to ensure that the next generation of officers learned from past mistakes rather than repeating them. Their efforts were rooted in the belief that true transformation required internal cultural shifts within policing itself. Though Erica's legal battle was over, her commitment to racial justice remained unshakable. She partnered with legislators to push for national policy reforms, amplifying the voices of those who had silently suffered under systemic oppression. Her voice became a symbol of resilience, an unyielding beacon of hope for those wronged by the system. Still, Erica knew this victory was bittersweet. Reed's dismissal represented progress, but it was only one step forward in a much longer journey. There was still immense work to be done. With Michael and countless others by her side, she committed herself to continuing the fight for a system that truly served and protected everyone regardless of race. The movement they had ignited was now an unstoppable force, too powerful to be ignored. Rest was not an option, not until real, lasting change had been achieved. It was a crisp, clear Tuesday morning when Erica Johnson's meticulously orchestrated routine was unexpectedly disrupted. The sun had just begun its ascent, casting a gentle golden glow over the quiet streets as she navigated her sleek sedan toward the hospital where she worked. Erica wasn't just any doctor. She was a paragon of excellence in her field, revered by colleagues and patients alike. Punctuality and professionalism were her trademarks, and she took immense pride in maintaining an impeccable record. Worry? That was not something Erica had anticipated. But then, as she glanced into her rearview mirror, her stomach churned. A police car had materialized behind her, its flashing lights slicing through the tranquil morning like a blade. The steady hum of the siren shattered the serene atmosphere. Confused but composed, Erica signaled and pulled over smoothly, cutting the engine with practiced precision. Her hands rested visibly on the steering wheel, a deliberate habit born from years of cautious interactions with law enforcement. As Officer Thomas Reed approached her vehicle, Erica's pulse quickened. She had heard whispers about him throughout the town. Officer Reed was not known for fairness or professionalism. Rumors painted him as someone who pulled drivers over without cause, often targeting people of color. Still, Erica kept her composure. "Good morning, officer," she greeted him, her voice calm but firm. "Do you know why I stopped you?" Reed asked, his tone already laced with irritation. "No, officer. I haven't broken any traffic laws," Erica replied, striving to maintain control of the conversation. "Well, you were swerving. That's reason enough for me to pull you over," Reed declared, though his explanation felt flimsy at best. Erica hadn't felt the car drift. The road was straight, and she had been fully focused. She remained silent, carefully calculating her next words. "I'd like to see the basis for this stop, officer," Erica said, her voice unwavering. Reed's eyes narrowed. "Step out of the vehicle." Erica's heart skipped a beat. As a black woman, she knew the inherent risks of such situations. A routine traffic stop could escalate dangerously, as she had seen happen far too often to others. "Is there a reason I need to step out of my car, officer? I've provided my information and answered your questions." "You seem suspicious," Reed muttered, his voice low and tinged with hostility. His reasoning was baseless, an attempt to mask his lack of justification. He moved closer to her door. "Get out now." Fear tightened its grip around Erica's throat, but she stood firm. This wasn't right. It was happening again. Racial profiling. Keeping her hands visible and her tone steady, she pressed on. "I need a reason to leave, officer. If I'm being detained, I have the right to know why." Reed's frustration became a tangible force. His face flushed red, his voice rising sharply. "You're interfering. Resisting arrest." "Resisting arrest for what exactly?" Erica asked, her voice calm despite the mounting tension. As the air between them thickened with hostility, another car pulled up behind the police vehicle. Erica's eyes darted to the rearview mirror, and her breath hitched. It was Michael, her husband, Captain Michael Johnson from a neighboring district. She hadn't called him. She hadn't even had the chance. But somehow, a passing friend had alerted him to the escalating situation. Michael's car glided smoothly to a stop behind Reed's, the engine cutting off with a soft hum. Erica's mind raced. Michael's arrival changed everything. He wasn't just any officer. He was a highly respected leader in the community, a man whose badge carried weight, a captain, someone with authority, integrity, and a reputation that commanded respect. His mere presence could bring this unjust situation to an immediate halt. And as he stepped out of the car, his commanding yet composed posture spoke volumes without a word being said. Agent Reed, who had leaned aggressively toward Erica's car window just moments earlier, visibly stiffened as Michael stepped out of his vehicle. The shift in Reed's demeanor was instantaneous. His hand instinctively drifted away from his weapon, as though he suddenly realized he had misjudged the gravity of the situation. Michael, tall and imposing, approached the scene with unwavering determination. The morning light caught the glint of his badge. A silent yet authority. Reed's demeanor shifted in an unsettling way. His hand drifted toward his holster, fingers grazing the edge of his weapon, a thinly veiled threat. Erica held her breath, the weight of helplessness pressing down on her. But she refused to back down. Not today. Not like this. Every second that ticked by felt heavier. The escalation unjust. The false accusations all too familiar. A daily nightmare for so many black individuals caught in a broken system. This time, it was her turn. Erica was determined not to become another statistic. As the air between them thickened with hostility, another car pulled up behind the police vehicle. Erica's eyes darted to the rearview mirror, and her breath hitched. It was Michael, her husband, Captain Michael Johnson from a neighboring district. She hadn't called him. She hadn't even had the chance. But somehow, a passing friend had alerted him to the escalating situation. Michael's car glided smoothly to a stop behind Reed's, the engine cutting off with a soft hum. Erica's mind raced. Michael's arrival changed everything. He wasn't just any officer. He was a highly respected leader in the community, a man whose badge carried weight, a captain, someone with authority, integrity, and a reputation that commanded respect. His mere presence could bring this unjust situation to an immediate halt. And as he stepped out of the car, his commanding yet composed posture spoke volumes without a word being said. Agent Reed, who had leaned aggressively toward Erica's car window just moments earlier, visibly stiffened as Michael stepped out of his vehicle. The shift in Reed's demeanor was instantaneous. His hand instinctively drifted away from his weapon, as though he suddenly realized he had misjudged the gravity of the situation. Michael, tall and imposing, approached the scene with unwavering determination. The morning light caught the glint of his badge, a silent yet authoritative declaration of power. There was no rush, no unnecessary drama, just the steady, commanding presence of a man who exuded quiet confidence. Erica locked eyes with him, and for the first time since the ordeal began, she felt a flicker of relief. Michael was here. His calm authority was exactly what this moment demanded. The unease radiating from Agent Reed was palpable. He tried to maintain his facade of control, but it was clear he had underestimated the dynamics at play. He hadn't anticipated someone like Michael arriving on the scene. In an instant, the balance of power shifted. Michael's badge, prominently displayed as he stood beside Reed, loomed large, overshadowing Reed's earlier bravado. Breaking the tense silence, Michael's voice cut through the air. "What's going on here, officer?" His tone was calm but carried the weight of authority, a question that brooked no evasion. Reed hesitated, visibly caught off guard. He opened his mouth to respond but faltered, words seemingly lodged in his throat. Gone was the aggressive stance he had adopted with Erica moments before. In its place was a man acutely aware that the situation had irrevocably changed. Confronted with a reality he could not manipulate, Michael's presence loomed like an unyielding storm, a clear signal that accountability was imminent. "Officer Reed," Michael said, his tone firm but laced with command, "why don't you come over here and explain this situation to me?" Though his voice remained measured, It carried the unmistakable weight of authority, demanding respect. Reed, now visibly unsettled, glanced between Michael and Erica, unsure how to navigate the shifting dynamics. The confidence that had once bolstered him began to crack under the pressure. Michael's badge was more than a symbol of his role. It was a beacon of scrutiny, immediately placing Reed's actions under a microscope. This was the moment of truth, where explanations would either justify or condemn. As Michael turned his full attention to Reed, Erica, still seated in the driver's seat, took a deep breath and began recounting her side of the story. Her voice was steady, though frustration simmered beneath the surface as she described the officer's behavior. She had maintained her composure during the encounter, but now, with her husband present, the dam holding back the truth began to break. "He approached me without reason, escalating things when all I did was ask why I was being stopped," Erica explained, her tone controlled but tinged with lingering indignation. Michael's gaze never left Reed. "Is that true, officer?" he asked, his voice deceptively calm but charged with authority. "Care to explain why my wife is being treated this way?" Reed stiffened, his posture rigid as he faced Michael's interrogation. "I pulled her over for erratic driving, sir. She was acting suspiciously. When I asked her to step out, she refused." But something about his response didn't add up. It felt disjointed, incongruent with the facts of the situation. Michael raised an eyebrow, skepticism etched across his face. "Suspicious? A doctor on her way to work? No speeding? No traffic violations? Your reasoning doesn't hold water." Deliberately closing the distance between them, Michael's voice grew firmer. "Let's see the footage from your body camera." Reed hesitated, his fingers twitching near the camera, avoiding eye contact. He knew what the footage would reveal. The lies he had hoped to conceal were about to be exposed.